All right, well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for being the detail person that has really made everything come together this week. So thank you. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our third webinar and probably our 100th event of Partnering for Peace, Peace Corps Week, which is concluding the end of this week. As president, oh, and please remind everyone to please mute yourself if you're not right now. We will open it up for questions in a little bit. Well, what a week. As president of Partnering for Peace, the board would really like to thank all of our volunteers, Rotarians, our PCVs, evacuated PCVs, Peace Corps staffs around the country and around the world, and Rotary International staff that has supported us ongoing, but in particular this week. John Hugo, the General Secretary of Rotary International, and Acting Director of the Peace Corps, Carol Spahn, who did a great job on Monday evening talking about the status and the opportunities of the partnership. We announced, of course, the of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, on Monday. So we're really excited about that. Victor Barnes, an RPCV and Director of Programming at Rotary International, and Kate Raftery, who's been around Peace Corps for a good long time in lots of capacities, joined us on Monday field questions live, so we appreciate their help. Ingrid Schwab and from Rotary International, and Teddy Adams from Peace Corps, working tirelessly to support us and to get the word out of this week. And we try not to forget that you have many other partnerships, but we really appreciated all your help. We have the board. I personally want to thank the committees on Partnering for Peace that have done so much to get ready for this week, and execution was excellent. Communications did a fabulous job with our newsletters and our social media. Produced an excellent interview, which we'll save and have that on the website for a long time, with John and Carol. Membership, Andy grew our members. He'll announce the new member count later on. And remember, it's free, so sign up to receive newsletters and just ideas of joint partnerships and what other people are doing. The outreach committee, and chaired by Charlie Hunt, our vice president, did a great job reaching out and supporting the week in so many ways, nationally and internationally. Ross kept our expenses to a minimum. Thank you, our treasurer. Dick Pyle and the governance committee is queuing up potential new board members, and several slots open for next year. So let us know if you might be interested in serving on a working board. And we are a working board. Our past president, Steve Werner, co-chaired it and really paid attention to all the details and kept us all in line. So thanks for cracking the whip. And Annie Lennox idea became a reality and surpassed all expectations. So thank you, Andy. We'll be hearing more from you in your activities, and then you can wrap up this evening. So I just wanted to thank everybody for the good work that's done. The sectors in Peace Corps and the Rotary areas of focus virtually align, and the symbiotic relationship between the two is so self-evident to anybody that looks at either organization. And it just makes such a natural connection, and that's why it's been so organic, the growth and the interest partnership. So we on the board are proud to help facilitate the partnership. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining.
Thanks. Great. So we'll jump into our program, and please, again, mute yourselves if you're not muted. And I think many of you who are already members of Partnering for Peace know that this partnership idea got started here out of District 5450 in Central Colorado when Sue Fox, who was past president of the Denver 31 Club, the downtown club, and Charlie and I and some others got together regularly to develop a framework that we presented to Rotary and Peace Corps. But the reason I'm mentioning that, in addition to wanting to do a shout out to Sue for her leadership, is that the partnership was originally envisioned to be a way for Rotary clubs and Peace Corps volunteers to work together in the field to do good projects together. And so we wanted to finish the week by highlighting just a few of the ways that Rotary and Peace Corps has worked together as examples of how other clubs and other Rotarians can also partner with Peace Corps volunteers. And of course, right now, as everybody knows, Peace Corps volunteers have been evacuated because of the pandemic, but they will be going back at some point, hopefully in the near future. But you can also partner with our PCV groups. We are an affiliate group of the National Peace Corps Association. And so we are encouraging Rotary clubs to do projects with our PCV groups. And a lot of people are concerned about Afghan refugees, but of course, as we know, there have been refugees from many other conflict situations around the world. But that's just one example of how a Rotary club could work together with an RPCV group to help with resettlement of refugees. And I know a lot of people who served in Peace Corps Afghanistan who are very concerned about the people of Afghanistan. But anyway, there's many ways to partner together around community service, international service. So we wanted to just give you some examples. So we've asked some of our members, but also friends of Partnering for Peace, to present briefly on their partnership project as examples of how others could do something similar. So we're going to start off today with Shannon Carter and Yulima from Ukraine. She's I'll let Shannon introduce her, but she's a Rotary actor in Ukraine. And Shannon learned about Rotary when she got involved with the RYLA project that Andy Lennick first started in Ukraine. And Shannon's been working with RYLA for the last several years. And the neat thing about that particular project is it led Shannon to become a Rotary Peace Fellow. She's now talking to us from England, where she's serving currently as a Rotary Peace Fellow. So without further ado, Shannon, I will turn it over to you, and would you please introduce your co-presenter?
Of course, Steve, and thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I've been working on it for about 4 years now, Steve. It's been quite the adventure throughout this entire process, and it's something I'm very grateful to have happen. So let me go ahead and get this screen set up. There we go. All right, can you see that? Fantastic. Yes. All right, let me make sure the scrolling works, and we will get this rolling, actually. Oh, there we go. All right. So it was with great pleasure to introduce you to my friend that I met through my process of being a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine. And I met her during one of my many visits to Lviv to meet with the Rotary clubs and the Rotary actors out there, all while campaigning for RYLA. I can't begin to tell you how many people I've met through District 2232. And with great pleasure, one of them is Yulia, and she's one of the founding members of her club, Lviv International Rotary Actor Club, who I'm also a member of. So she's currently working on her PhD, and she's also co-owner of a business, all while being my RYLA programming and communications person for RYLA 2021. She's also a business analyst currently working. Yulia, did I miss anything?
No, thank you, Shannon, for introducing me. And thank you, Steve and Kim, for giving the word for us. So today we are going to share a little history of RYLA in Ukraine and what problems we met, how we get through COVID-19, and what have been done. So as it was already mentioned, I am the secretary of Rotary Club International, and so was I in 2019 when me and my club met RYLA, met Peace Corps volunteers and Shannon Carter. So District 2232 was really lucky to get to know these Peace Corps volunteers and start to work on RYLA in Ukraine as a beginning of the whole project on our country. So we had an amazing experience on organization of this event. And I think it's really great that we had this opportunity to become partners of Peace Corps, because when the Peace Corps volunteer come to Ukraine, I think they bring more kindness, more and more every time. And now it's really pity that we have lost them during this evacuation, but still we can do our events in some way. So now I can give the word for Shannon so she can share with you information about RYLA in 2019 and 2020. Shannon. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you for reminding me to mute. I just got so excited. I started talking, and because if I refer to Yulia as Yuko, that's how we refer to her in person, like a nickname. So Yulia is Yuko. So okay, so let's dive into RYLA 2019. So goodness, that was almost that was a while ago, wasn't it? But before I dive into RYLA 19, I guess I'll talk about the initiation of some people that helped make this happen too, right? So all before RYLA 2019, I was, like I mentioned earlier, traveling through Ukraine, meeting with Rotary clubs, campaigning for RYLA. I went to district events. I was invited by the district governor to go down to Dnipro. And honestly, if it wasn't for the district governor support, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today. These two individuals that were really at the forefront of this was Serhiy Zavitsky and Mykola Steblenko. So after a year and a half of working on this and campaigning, Mykola reached out to me a few months before RYLA 2019, and he's like, Shannon, I'm ready. Let's make this happen. And I'm like, how many kids do you need to make this happen? I'm like, okay, Mykola, I need at least 20 for the budget to cut even. And I started cutting the budget from 15,000, and we were able to successfully pull it off at about 5,000 USD. Costs are a bit cheaper in Ukraine, but we cut the budget over half to make this happen. We found ways. And we cut things. So anyway, moving forward, some of the other individuals you see on this slide are other key components. It doesn't encompass everybody. And hundreds of people have communicated with, not including through email chains across the world. We have a gentleman, the Shahab Alawar, who flew in from California to Ukraine and also has been joining every single meeting for the past 4 years in support of RYLA Ukraine and is part of the RYLA Planning Committee continuously. We'll be starting planning RYLA 2022 in the next few months, and hopefully that'll be an in-person event, if not a hybrid event. The person next to him is Dara Gray, and she was my initiation of RYLA planning programming, and also the person who also recruited my volunteers in the next photo over, who were my counselors and trainers for the initiation of RYLA in 2019. Vera, the past district governor, was a huge support as well and helped with international communications. And also the gentleman at the bottom, Peter, who is also part of the District 2232, is the RYLA district chair. And he was my project manager for this year and the previous year, and a firm supporter and advocate for RYLA since its initiation from the very beginning 4 years ago. So it's been quite the ride, guys, and I'm very happy to be on it. So met some phenomenal people through this process, and the amount of growth and relationships have been overwhelming. I still look back and still feels a bit surreal. So back in RYLA 2019, we basically launched this. Originally, we were hoping to do it back in 2018. Unfortunately, some things didn't come together. And we went ahead and worked with the district, and we delayed it to RYLA 2019. So we had more time to plan and program, make it happen, make sure we had a better foundation. So we launched it with 17 youth participants from Ukraine. I had 2 girls flying from Japan, 2 young men flying from Armenia, and 10 Peace Corps volunteers, including myself, that got together and put on this 4-day, very intensive, overnight leadership training in Lviv, Ukraine. It was very impactful for me as well, because at the end of the 4 days, it almost went by too quick, and there's a lot of emotions as we say goodbye to each other. And Peace Corps volunteers assisted as trainers, speakers, and organizers, staff. So there's a lot of potential to be able to duplicate this process for other Peace Corps volunteers in different countries to work with districts and clubs to put on RYLA events such as we did. So, but that's what we did in 2019 all together. Okay, so we were well underway for our planning for RYLA 2020 after RYLA 2019. So in fact, we're a couple months ahead of schedule when I got the call to evacuate the country in March 2020. So we had planned a very large RYLA in person with Interact, with Rotaractors and Rotarians, almost like 3 separate events for the week long. We're looking at 300 plus participants, and we're making good progress when I got the call to leave the country. So on the way out, I got a call from, a call from Costa, the past district governor, saying, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, si bude dobre, everything will be fine. And in my mind, it's fascinating, because in my mind, I'm like, how are we gonna make this happen? And the only way we could make it happen is go online. So intuitively, I knew we're gonna go online. We've never done this before. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing things I've never done before. I know it was going to be a learning curve, but I knew if we didn't continue working on it, it risked the chance of never happening again. So we went online, and with the support of Partnering for Peace and our friends at Partnering for Peace, we were able to advertise it internationally through the districts. And we had over 700 plus registered attendees. 250 people per day for 2 days. So we did a weekend RYLA for 4 hours each day. And we had a lot of fun in the process. Was it perfect? The participants don't know. But it was perfect, the fact that we pulled it off. So it was a fun learning experience. So after this RYLA finished, we're really excited about having finally an in-person RYLA for the following summer, because all of us were excited for COVID to end. So we didn't foresee COVID being around the following year, unfortunately. However, we started planning potentially a hybrid RYLA with the idea that maybe it was going to be in person. Well, unfortunately, due to COVID, we went online again, but it still happened. And Yuko, as my programming and communications individual, part of my team, will be able to tell you a little bit more about RYLA 2021. Right, Yuko?
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Yes, it really was amazing in 2019 when we had it offline, and we really had a really big hope that we can do it in person again. But we did it online because the pandemic came again, and we held this event as an events 5 Fridays in a row, where we were inviting different trainers from different countries, and the trainers were presenting us their experience in the important topic as for us. So it was the building peace and opportunities in a changing world. The speakers were really encouraging all the participants to think about the way they are solving problems in personal life and also in the country level, because most of our participants were from not very good developed countries and from the countries which meet a lot of problems with neighbors, etc. But we really saw that young people start to think in a different way. They start to plan solving problems and other important things. So we had Austria, Estonia, Denmark, Georgia, Serbia, Nigeria, India, and other countries. And we really think it was successful. We finished it and we hope to have it next year and the year after that, right, Shannon? I
Well,
will pass the words back to you again.
my apologies, Yuka. I didn't mean to
It's
interrupt you,
okay.
but of course, we're not stopping. We're going to continue working on it. And I'm really excited for Peace Corps volunteers to come back to Ukraine or other countries, because moving on to our next slide is that RYLA has a lot of opportunities between Peace Corps and Rotary collaboration, as I've learned. As Steve had mentioned earlier, I wasn't familiar with Rotary before I became a Peace Corps volunteer. I learned it through the network as a Peace Corps volunteer through an advertisement that went out recruiting for Peace Corps volunteers to support event Intruskevets, which Andy was part of that initiation thought process. For, oh goodness, that was back in 2017, I believe. When I first came to Ukraine. And then a couple months later, I was only in Ukraine for a couple months when I first learned about this potential opportunity. And the moment I read about it in the newsletter, I applied thinking this just made sense. And I jumped, and I'm happy I did. And I haven't looked back since. So there's basically Peace Corps volunteers come in, and we also do something that's also tied to something called like PACA. I'm not sure, it's like a toolkit for Peace Corps volunteers, and basically it's a participatory analysis for community action. And you do a needs analysis of projects within the community, including your Rotarians, and figure out what's going to work. And if you've noticed, for the past 3 RYLAs, they haven't all been the same. We've adapted, we've changed, we grew. I've spoken with the individuals, what they wanted to do. We had a lot of support, or a lot of potential speakers for our past RYLA. And I'm like, whew, that's a lot. How do we cut this back? And I wasn't the project manager, I was the advisor through the process. And we worked together to figure out where our ideas come together. And it just made more sense to do a summer series, even though it was a lot more work than it would be just doing 1 or 2 events. We did it throughout the entire summer. So as we know, if you don't know, RYLA, it's adaptable, it's changeable. You can pretty much do anything you want with it, as long as it focuses on building youth leadership. It can be a 1-day seminar, a 3-day retreat, a week-long camp. So when the Peace Corps volunteers come to the country and they communicate with the Rotary clubs or the district, you basically work together to figure out what do each other really want to do, what kind of projects you want to do together in support of youth development. And the synergy in this project of working together is just potentially, to me, it makes a lot of sense. And I hope many other future Peace Corps volunteers and Rotary clubs think the same way too. So you can do anything from speakers, presentations, workshops. The possibilities are endless. So I'm sure some people may have some questions. I think we went a little over our time, Yuko, but that's okay. And we'll answer some questions later if anybody has some questions. What do you think, Yuko?
Yeah, sure. You feel welcome to ask any questions you want.
Great. Well, thanks. We'll do the questions after all 3 presentations. So we'll go on to our next one. Thank you very much, Shannon and Yuka. And I hope we're not keeping you up too late. You can stay on a little longer. So our next short vignette is going to be by Carl Dickerson and Joe Nelson. Carl is the founder of the Give a Book program. He's a Rotarian in Orange Beach, Alabama, and he has been working with many Rotary clubs and Peace Corps volunteers to set up libraries at Peace Corps volunteers schools. So Carl, would you introduce Joan and then go ahead and launch in, and I'll give you a 2-minute warning on the chat window. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. It's quite an honor. And Joan Nelson, a returned Peace Corps volunteer whom I met in Costa Rica, will be sharing in the presentation. I'd like to share just briefly some of the highlights of what I believe was important process to make the success of our projects possible. After the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between Rotary and Peace Corps, returned Peace Corps volunteer Rotarian Tom Gromley, who was the past president of the San Jose Rotary Club, where I'm an honorary member, and the founding president of the Garbito Rotary Club, and I became very intentional about Rotary Peace Corps collaborative projects. Our project base was literacy because we were both Peace Corps and Rotary literacy aligned with the work that we were doing. In the first year following the MOU, there were 25 Rotary clubs in the United States that partnered with Rotary clubs in Costa Rica to do projects with Peace Corps volunteers. I think it's pretty amazing. And I want to share with you how that happened. The first thing I did after the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding was reach out to Sue Fox after reading about it in the Rotarian. Sue invited me to Denver to meet with her, and I went out twice and met with her, and got to meet some of the committee members at the time. And her advice and expertise was invaluable in setting up the relationship with Peace Corps in Costa Rica. Even though there's a lot of synergy between Peace Corps and Rotary, there are differences in the way our organizations work. And not being a Peace Corps volunteer, we had a lot to learn, and Sue was, again, invaluable. I say that to say that partnering for peace is an invaluable resource for any Rotarians and any Rotary clubs wanting to do collaborative projects with Peace Corps. And I encourage all Rotarians wanting to do that to reach out to Partnering for Peace for that guidance. Sue and the Denver Rotary Club actually sponsored the first project, and along with the Castro Valley Rotary Club, the home club of the Peace Corps volunteer, whose project we sponsored. After a meeting with Sue, we set up meetings with the Peace Corps director in Costa Rica. We met numerous times with Ann to talk about Rotary and possible collaborative projects. It was in the course of one of those meetings that she shared with me that they had begun a new work with International Baccalaureate students, IB programs. And she asked if we might consider doing projects that would support that project, support the IB program. And that's how we met Joan. I'd like to say just a couple other things that we did that was very important before I turn it over to Joan. We invited the Peace Corps director to present programs at most of the major Rotary clubs in Costa Rica. And that was very important. Oftentimes, Peace Corps volunteers accompanied her, and they presented programs which introduced Peace Corps to Rotary in a more substantial way and laid the groundwork for these collaborative projects that we did. Also, every time a Rotary group came to Costa Rica, as Rotarians, we always meet with the Rotary clubs or have socials. Every time we invited Peace Corps volunteers to be a part of the socials and the Rotary meetings, which gave opportunities for the Rotarians, both in Costa Rica and in the States, to meet Peace Corps volunteers. It was great for the volunteers because they had opportunities to visit with North Americans who were visiting, as well as the Rotarians in Costa Rica got to know them. Peace Corps staff, along with our input, developed a form that was very important. Peace Corps volunteers completed this form when they wanted to request a project. And all the regional leaders had access to it, and that was spread among the Peace Corps volunteers. An important piece of that form was we were able to negotiate with Peace Corps that they would allow us to know the hometown of the Peace Corps volunteer. We couldn't publicize that, but we could use that. And the way it was used, and this was the heart and the backbone of the success of our projects, is that using that information, we were able to reach out to the hometown Rotary clubs of the Peace Corps volunteers and ask those Rotary clubs to consider sponsoring a project in the community of the Peace Corps volunteer who was from their hometown. And I could spend the whole program talking about the responses there. Oftentimes, Rotary clubs, they knew the Peace Corps volunteer or their family, but it was the hometown clubs, or possibly a club in the city where they went to the university, that sponsored most of the projects. And it gave an opportunity for a Rotary club to engage in an international project connected locally through the Peace Corps volunteer. And that was really the heart of the success of what we did. The Peace Corps volunteers agreed to present programs at the Rotary Club, either when they were home on break or at the end of their service. That was an important piece. The Rotary clubs always look forward to the return of the volunteer and the programs they presented. Again, the Peace Corps director shared with us about Joan. And when I learned that Joan was from Denver, I connected her with the Highlands Ranch Rotary Club. The Highlands Ranch Club had already done a project, sponsored a project with the Garbito Rotary Club that benefited Phil Nordick, who was from Highlands Ranch. And so they were already familiar with the program. Also, Bob Martin, Sue's husband, was past president of the club, and they eagerly undertook Joan's project. And we connected them, of course, with Tom Gromley. Tom, by happenstance, served in the same home, in the same town where Joan served. But I believe it's all about connections. And when the right connections take place, magic happens. And I'd like, at this point, Joan to share about the magic that happened between her community and the Highlands Ranch Rotary Club.
Well, thanks, Carl. Yeah, I'll give you a little history about IB programs in Costa Rica. The students in Costa Rica, when they graduate from high school, need to pass what's called a baccalaureato exam. And the pass rates were pretty abysmal. But there were international baccalaureate programs in private schools, and 90% of the students who were participating in the IB programs were passing the national exam for regular high school students, even though their curriculum was actually quite different. So they needed to pass both the IB exam, which would give them permission to go to any school around the world, because the IB program is accepted by colleges everywhere, and the national exam. So I will say I was honored to work with the creme de la creme of students. When I was there, they were just first beginning to move those IB programs into public schools, thinking they've been such a success privately, let's try it in public schools. And mine was one of the first high schools to do that. So we were charged with implementing an IB curriculum in the public school. So that's when Highlands Ranch got involved and were so instrumental in making this first cohort of IB students in this public school really successful with their English and their English exam. They need to have a pretty high level of fluency in order to pass the IB English exam. And so Highlands Ranch Rotarians came to visit the students. They had conversational groups. The students took, in small groups, took a couple of Rotarians in each group on a scavenger hunt through the city, so that they could teach, and it was all done in English, so that they could teach the Rotarians about their city, and they could practice their conversation while doing that. We got the Rotary Club involved with an organization called Asobitico, which is the national IB program in Costa Rica. And Asobitico presented Rotary with a book list of all of the English reading that the students would be expected to do to match their curriculum. And Rotary was generous enough to start an English library at our public high school, which was the first that had been done. A couple of the Rotarians were experts in fields that were really interesting to the students. We had a couple of NASA engineers, and Costa Rica had a couple of very famous astronauts with NASA. And so almost every high school student in Costa Rica aspires to be an aerospace engineer. And so they were so excited to have these Rotarians come. They were able to pick their brains about NASA and what it took to get involved. And then those students came to visit, a few students came to visit me in the US, and we met with the Rotarians who took them to see the Mars probe, which was just this unbelievable privilege for the students. Another Rotarian is an international business expert. He met with all of the students interested in business and economics, And he worked with Asobitico to start an international business course for IB students to enhance their leadership in business. Some students came to visit me after leaving, and we connected with Rotarians who supplied them with the equipment that they needed to go skiing, their first time seeing snow. Many Rotarians have stayed in touch with some of the students that they met there. And I did, as Carl said, present to the Highlands Ranch group about the experience and how successful it was. But I just don't think the students, we had 100% pass rate for the international diploma. And I just think, and that was the first school ever in Costa Rica, public or private, to have 100% pass rate on the IB exam. And I credit a lot of that to this experience with the Rotary Club. Okay, Carl, I think I've said my piece.
That concludes our project. I'm happy to take questions and the question answer. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Carl and Joan. And I learned some new things, and I thought I knew a lot about your project. So that's just terrific. Thank you for sharing. So I just want to let everyone know that it'd be kind of hard to do a question period by just verbally. So please put your questions in the chat window and I'll read them. You can start doing that now, even though we have one more presentation by Charlie Hunt and Kelly Thompson. Charlie was already introduced as Vice President of Partnering for Peace and President of the Peace Corps RPCVs of Colorado. He's also past President of the Rotary Club of Denver Lodo. And he'll be talking about a different aspect of our partnership, which is how our PCVs can get involved with Rotary. And we have Bernadine and Ken online today, who are the current presidents of the satellite group that Charlie's going to tell you about. So Charlie and Kelly, will you take it away, please?
Thanks, Steve. I've been a Rotarian since 2005, and I half-kiddingly say that I took the motto, service above self, a little too seriously and became a Peace Corps volunteer. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer from 2006 to 2008 in Vanuatu with my wife, Nancy Cole. Late in 2018, my club, the Denver Lodo Rotary Club, our president, Jeff Ambrose, told me that he wanted to support my work with the Rotary Peace Corps partnership in our district. And I thought about it for a while, trying to figure out exactly what that might be. But you know, sometimes things just happen all by themselves. As luck would have it, our club was having our happy hour the same day as Returned Peace Corps Volunteers of Colorado was having their happy hour. So I mentioned to Susie Smith, who was the president of RPCV of Colorado at the time, saying I couldn't make the meeting because I had the Rotary happy hour at the same time. And Susie came back to me and said, why don't we just have both of our happy hours together at the same place? And we did. As we were having the joint happy hour, I got talking to a number of RPCVs who were curious about the Rotarians there, and club members were talking to the RPCVs. And I found out there was just a number of people who are returned Peace Corps volunteers who were just pretty darn curious about Rotary as something they might be interested in. The one thing that they said was that they really had a hard time with the cost of the dues. It just really didn't fit their budgets. Also around this time, I became aware of the Rotary concept of satellite groups and satellite clubs. So I got talking to our district membership chair about that idea, and I found out that satellite groups under a Rotary club can have a different due structure and can also have different meeting times. So with that, I pulled back in the group of people who had expressed interest in Rotary, said, let's have a meeting, let's kind of talk about this. We set so from that, we actually had a group of people who said they were interested in becoming members of our satellite group under our club. And we kind of distinguished the two as like the mothership and the satellite. I organized, after that, we set our satellite group dues at $50 a quarter, which was quite doable. We set up a different meeting schedule for all the returned Peace Corps volunteers to pay. The beginning of 2019, we started the satellite group with 9 new club members, and since then it's grown to about 15. That has just about doubled the size of our overall club. We do what I refer to as cross-pollination events, so whenever we have a happy hour, everyone's invited. The satellite and also the mothership. We also do our community services together. As Steve mentioned, Ken and Bernadine are on this call. They are actually not the presidents, because a satellite group actually has chairs. So they're the group chairs for the satellite group. And also on the call is Andy Lennox, who is in the group, and Martha King, who's also a member of our satellite group, and Kelly Thompson. And she is the next person to talk. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly now, so she can talk about her experience connecting with Rotary. Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me. Sorry that I'm wearing a mask. I'm still at work, actually. It's 5:15 here in Denver, so, but happy to be here and share, my Rotary experience actually started in high school when I was in Interact, and then was in Rotaract when I was in college too. There wasn't a club actually at my college, but another friend that I met who had also been in Interact when she was in high school. And I joined created a club together. And so then when I was in Peace Corps, just made sense to connect with a Rotary club in Ecuador where I was living. So I was thinking about that the other day, the first time that I met the Rotary Club members in Riobamba was the nearest city that I lived in. And I think I had emailed them and talked about trying to find a time to meet up. And this woman said, okay, I'll come pick you up at this park at this time. And so I was just waiting there, and this stranger pulled up. She said, I'll be in a green truck. And I'm like, okay, this kind of sounds weird, but supposedly she's a Rotarian, so should be safe. And I'm still here to tell the story about it. So she picked me up, and I don't remember where we went, but that's how I got involved with the club there. I invited them up to the community where I was living to see the projects that I was doing. And even though they were only an hour away, they had never even been to those kind of communities before. So that was kind of a cool way that I could form that local partnership, even not really being a local, just for a short time in the Peace Corps. So then since returning, I was a member of the RPCV group of Colorado. And when the new Rotary Club discussions came up, it just kind of seemed like something natural that I've, my grandparents are also in Rotary, my parents, my younger sister was actually the president of her Rotary Club. So just kind of made sense to that, coming from where I'm coming from, that I would like to participate in Rotary too. So I've been the community service chairperson, kind of organizing events for our group to do together for the last couple of years. And since being back too, I've just recognized that it is really important too to be involved in our own local communities as well. And our club does still have some international service projects, but my passion lately has been just working on the local issues. And as much as we can do during COVID, we've had a couple of in-person things that we've been able to do, especially more recently and over the summer outside. So it's just a great group of people that mostly say yes to everything that I want to suggest and have their own ideas too. And I don't know, that was really fast, but that's kind of all I have to say. Or Charlie, was there anything else?
No, that's great, Kelly. That's
Yeah.
just what I was hoping. Matter of fact, you contributed more, some few things that I didn't know about you too. So thank you so much for joining, even though it's still the middle of your workday.
Yeah.
And with that, Steve, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Charlie and Kelly, and thank you, Carl and Joan, and thank you, Shannon and Yulia. We appreciate you getting us started with ideas and how to do partnership projects. Please put your question in the chat window because it'd be really hard to do it otherwise with everybody raising hands at the same time. And the first question was directed to Shannon by Carrie Johnson. It had to do with strategies that work best with providing language translation on international meeting like Zoom. And before Shannon launches, I just want to warn everybody, we intended this session to go a little bit longer so we could have a wrap up of the Rotary Peace Corps Week by Andy Lennox, who's had the idea originally that he brought to Partnering for Peace. So please hang in there for just a little longer past 5:30 Mountain Time, 7:30 Eastern Time, so we can give you highlights of the week. But right now, Shannon, would you take that first question?
I can, Stephen, thank you. So there are some challenges when we planned the first one in person, and then when we transferred to an online event, and being that Ukraine has the language Ukrainian, we wanted to make sure that we reached the Ukrainian youth in their native language. So we have more participants. We ran into this situation, ran into a couple challenges along the way with this, because the first RYLA was just in English, just to get it started, but we want the future RYLAs to be predominantly in the native language of Ukrainian and then simultaneously translated into English. So we're focusing more on the Ukrainian youth. However, we're keeping it open to the international level. So we had it simultaneously translated. So it was predominantly done in English, and we had the district help pay for the Ukrainian translators, professional translators. And so for each session back in 2020 and for the last one, we had a team of like 5 or 6 different translators. And each day we had a couple different translators take turns and simultaneously translating every single session. So you can hear in English, then switch it over to the Ukrainian language. I hope in the future as we move forward that we'll be able to strategize and make a little bit more predominantly Ukrainian, and then we just do it simultaneously translated into the English language. I do notice that there is a bit of a disconnect when there is translations. So this is the challenge that we are facing when it comes to make sure that all people are fully engaged in the event despite the language barriers. So looking forward to that in the future. So we'll see what we're going to do. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you. And Yulia, do you have anything to add to that?
Could I ask a qualification?
Sure, go ahead.
Shannon, I'm very interested in this. Did you ever try to have the translator located with the person that was remote? And if so, did that work or not? And then it sounds like what you had locally was you had some kind of electronic system where people could put on earphones or something so that people could select whatever the speaker was talking and or the translator. Is that true?
It's kind of like that. So what is Zoom has some really cool features on it where you're able to change the channel basically. So you have an English channel and then you can do a Ukrainian channel. So the Ukrainian district, originally there was just a Russian channel, but the Ukrainian district was able to work with Zoom to establish a Ukrainian channel. And then you can choose which channel you want to be on. I'm sorry if that sounds complicated. Basically, when we do events in multilingual, at the very bottom of the screen, there'll be a logo. It's not on this one, but if you were to do this in the future, there'll be a logo, like a little world, basically, that looks like a little crosshatch. And then you click it and they'll give you the option of what languages. So usually the people who put the event on, there's an extra setting they have to go through and to get those translators into those places in their emails and insert it into the actual program. I wish I can provide more information than that, but I can just reassure you that Zoom has the capability to make this happen.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks, Carrie, for that question. Ellen Young reminded everybody that Rotary also has passport clubs. And so Charlie, can you start by explaining the difference between that and the satellite group? And then Ellen, please add to that and explain a little more about how you've used passport clubs.
Actually, I think I'm going to let Ellen answer that directly because I think she knows more about it than I do.
Okay. Ellen, are you
Well,
good?
I hope my speaker is sounding okay. I don't have my fancy microphone plugged in. But basically, when you mentioned the satellite clubs, a passport club is another feature that was approved by Rotary a few years ago. And it meets virtually most of the time, but it meets in person to do projects. So our little club started in December. We were chartered. We've got about 20 members. We meet virtually, and we're from a regional area in Northeast Illinois, as my little sign says. And basically, it only meets once a month. But the other mandate is to do 40 hours of humanitarian service somewhere in the world, and mainly in our community. So I picked vegetables on a day when it was 102, heat index. That was a little bit of a trip. You do what you can in your community, and you do what you can in the world. So we participated in a global grant as well. So it's a regular Rotary club, but we only meet once a month, which is a really different type of club. We do have speakers. The fees are a whole lot less because we're not feeding you. You eat by yourself, or if we have a party, it's a potluck. So it's a different concept, and they're growing around the world. I think there were about 55 at last count, but I think that's increased. And there's a whole bunch in the United States, and I've been following this for a while. And my goal, I'm in Northeast Illinois, would be to have a whole bunch of Peace Corps workers join a passport club. Maybe they do their own passport club, because that's another concept, which is a cause-based club. That's something else that's been kicked around a little bit too.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. And Mark Harbison reminded everybody that there were Rotary Fellowship Alumni Associations and alumni groups. So Mark, can you explain a little more about that, please?
Yeah, this is it's basically a series of workshops ending up in November at Geneva Peace Week. And so what it is a group of, Mike Caruso knows all about this. It's a group of Rotarians and Rotary Peace Fellows who get together in workshops and design global grants in the peace and conflict area of focus. So anyone can participate in these workshops if they're a Rotarian, a Rotaractor, or Peace Corps volunteer. So that Facebook page is a good place to get their schedule of workshops and stay in touch. But it's another avenue for cooperation between Rotary and its partners.
Great.
And the Peace Corps volunteers would be very, very welcome. Also alumni.
Great. Well, thanks, Mark, for bringing that to our attention. And Charlie, you mentioned about how Partnering for Peace can help create Peace Corps Alliance committees and districts. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure, Steve. We in District 5450 established the first Rotary Peace Corps Alliance Committee, and the nature of that is to make sure that districts know a little bit more about the partnership and how to use it at the grassroots level. So if you find yourself having a passion for this partnership between Peace Corps and Rotary International, we would encourage you to get with your district governor and talk about the advantages of having better international service projects, because you can connect with Peace Corps volunteers or return Peace Corps volunteers. And also from a membership point of view, that clubs could increase their membership through return Peace Corps volunteers. So what the ask is basically to start a committee in your district, and then do things like when you're having your district conference, make sure you got a table, make sure you lasso some people and bring them in and make them more aware of the partnership, and then how they can leverage that partnership as they're doing projects.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. Julie asked if anybody on the call tonight is from the Twin Cities. And Julie, if nobody responds in the chat window, we do have Partnering for Peace members in the Twin Cities. So I will get back to you. Please send me your email address. And if anybody else responds, there you have a contact. And if not, I will connect you to some of our members in the Twin Cities. So any other questions then? So we.
Tom Kate is here. I don't know
hey,
if anyone
Tom.
can hear me.
Yeah, Tom, we can
From
hear
Rapid
you.
City, South Dakota.
Yeah.
We tried a satellite with our Native American communities for about 7 years, but then the organizer was left and
You're going in and out, Tom. Sorry.
it fell apart. Meanwhile, we've learned.
Hey, Tom, you're going in and out.
Concept.
Can you maybe type it in the chat window? Tom, can you hear me?
What's that?
Tom, you're going in and out. We can't hear you. Can you type it in the chat window and then I'll read it? And sorry.
Yeah. I put it. Yeah. Typed it. I have typed it.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. I don't see it yet. Maybe it's there. I cannot see your chat message, but as soon as I do, we'll read it. Keith Bell asked, is Partnering for Peace doing anything at the RI Houston Convention? And I can answer that. Partnering for Peace has partnered with Peace Corps, and which has been invited by Rotary to have a booth. So every time the convention's in a US city, since this partnership got started, Peace Corps has had a booth, and we've worked with Peace Corps on that booth. Also, we have applied for a breakout session so that we can let Rotarians that want to sign up for that breakout session to learn about the partnership. And we are applying for a breakout session in Houston. A couple of times we were not able to do a breakout because they were oversubscribed. And we did our own special session, and with the help of Rotary, they found a location for us. So we will have a presence in Houston. We don't know for sure what that's going to look like, but we will get the word out to all the members. So again, please go to the Partnering for Peace website and join. It's free, no cost to you, because our board members help underwrite the cost of Partnering for Peace. And we don't have a lot of expenses to begin with. So we will be in Houston. And Tom, I still don't see your question, but if your microphone's working better, or if you type it in the chat window,
I'm back. I'm back on the mic. I have tried to send it, but
okay.
I'm not very good on this social media, so maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, my question is, has anyone had any experience with the Rotary Community Corps concept?
That's a good question. And has anybody worked on that, the Community Corps? And Tom, you might need to explain it a little more. I don't think everybody would know what a Community Corps is.
I'll try if the mic stays up. Apparently, Rotary has supported these for about a decade, and they're a community-based group. They do not have fees, but they are sponsored by a club, and they bring the needs of the community to a sponsored club. And then that club responds to community priorities directly from the community's own needs assessment. So it's a much better way to bring grassroots, in this case, Native American needs and from the community themselves to the we have way we hope with, but we try to go.
Okay. So Tom, we'll try to get back to you with more information because you're really breaking up. So, but I think your idea is that community corps are another way for Partnering for Peace, and both Rotary and Peace Corps to partner together. So we'll work with you on that and get information out to people that want to start a community corps that's made up of our PCVs. I hope that partially answers your question. And Keith, Bell, I think make this the last comment. Yuli, Yuko, thank you again for joining. Since it's 3 a.m. in Ukraine, she's going to log off, but we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. That was very kind.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
What's left of it? Okay, and I'm going to just make this last comment, the last thing, and then turn it over to Andy Lennox to close us out by summarizing what has happened this week. It's been phenomenal. Keith Bell volunteered to help with anything Partnering for Peace does at the Houston Rotary International Convention in Houston. So just want to let you know, we're always looking for volunteers. It's not a big time commitment. And we're growing, our committees are growing, and we welcome you. If you want to get more involved, to please contact Charlie, Kim, me, Andy, and we have other board members on the call today, Bill Miller, Bill Stumbaugh. So we welcome your involvement and would look forward to that. So Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you to close this out. When Andy's done summarizing the Rotary Peace Corps Week, we'll be adjourned. So take it away, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Kim stole a little bit of my thunder by giving gratitude, but I need to also express gratitude. When I first brought this idea to the board a few months ago, I ran it by Charlie Hunt first, and Charlie asked me, "Do you think you've bitten off more than you can chew?" Little did Charlie know that he would be doing a lot of the chewing as well. But really, this has been a group effort. We've been working on partnering on our Rotary Peace Corps Week for a few months now. And our communications committee has just been phenomenal. Chantal Vo, Corinne Popor, Vanna Pruitt. Steve has been fantastic in reaching out to the highest levels of both organizations. And Kim, I think, has been wearing her high school cheerleader outfit for the last couple of months. We have had great liaisons with Ingrid Schwab and Ted Adams, and then of course, John Hugo and Carol Spahn. And I want to give a shout out to Bill Stumbaugh, because in the very beginning, Bill basically said in his very diplomatic way, "I don't want to participate in yet another blah, 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 blah." And he challenged us to think about what success would be, what success would look like. And so have we had success? I think so. We have tried to put some metrics together. We're tracking how many webinars. Of course, that's an easy one. We're tracking membership, and the membership in Partnering for Peace has more than doubled during this. We had a webinar on Wednesday with the recruiters, and a number of Rotarians have reached out to them expressing interest in serving in the Peace Corps. And we hope that a lot of the RPCVs that have participated this week have also learned about Rotary. We've really seeded the future. And I think that was, for me, that was the most important thing, that we get Rotarians and Return Peace Corps volunteers face to face, so that they get to know each other and they get to speak. And when the future is a little bit better and brighter, and we can have our PCVs out in the field, and we can work more directly on international projects, those relationships will have been seeded and cemented. So going forward, what are we going to do? I think one of the things that we've tried to do is to tell Rotarians about the Peace Corps and the Peace Corps people, both volunteers and Return Peace Corps volunteers, and tell the Peace Corps people, I call them Peace Corrians, about what a typical Rotarian is. And given that there really are no typical Rotarians or people that have served in the Peace Corps, one of the things that we do know is that Rotary is just a phenomenal organization that's been around for over 105 years, tremendous networking and contacts, also tremendous track record of raising money, and a history of service. And really, when I was in Ukraine, and this is the genesis of the RYLA program, I had gone there with this idea of having an international youth conference. When I started working with Rotary and it started to grow, Steve Werner was actually one of those contacts that I was able to reach out through the Rotary networking. So what does Peace Corps bring to the table? What do Peace Corps volunteers bring to the table? Innovation, energy, an international network. Very often it's youth. Most Peace Corps volunteers are young. And I'm going to key in on a word that Kelly used before, and that's passion. Peace Corps volunteers have a lot of passion when they go out into the world. So where are we going to go from here? I hope that everybody on this call, everybody that has participated in Rotary Peace Corps Week will go out, because every project begins with a dream. And think of Rotary, who at first said, hey, let's eradicate polio. That was a dream that is almost achieved at this point. This MOU was a dream of people that got together in Colorado 10 years ago and have been working on it for 10 years. Again, the RYLA Ukraine was a dream. It was an international youth conference. So my exhortation to you all is, don't let old ideas and methods hold you back. One of the things that I have heard in Rotary, and I've been a Rotarian for over 35 years, is, well, this is the way it's always been done. And we need to throw out those types of paradigms, and in a changing world, bring our passion, bring new ideas, and use this partnership, use this collaborative opportunity that we have to merge these, not to merge these two organizations, but to merge the people within these two organizations to accomplish so much more than any one of us can accomplish individually. My closing comment, if you're on this call, you're blessed. You are probably have a roof over your head. You've not gone to bed hungry. And we're privileged. We have a privilege to serve, whether we are Rotarians or in the Peace Corps. And so let's take advantage of this. Please stay in touch with Partnering for Peace. Again, our membership is free. Any feedback that you can provide us is very, very welcome. And anything that we can do to help you achieve your dreams and your goals, we are happy to do. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Andy. And that closes our program today, but please don't be a stranger. If you have other questions, mail them to us and we'll get back to you. And thank you, presenters, Shannon, Yukio. I'm not pronouncing her name correctly, right, Shannon? Sorry. And Carl and Joan, Charlie and Kelly. Thank you, Andy, for a great closeout and for bringing this idea forward and putting so much energy into the project. So good night, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we'll be in touch again soon. There will be a membership meeting of Partnering for Peace before the end of the year. Good night.
Good night.